So I've got a very interesting project. Gary, we're only just talking about how real estate is changing the blockchain. And one of the fundamental things I like to do in doing these video interviews, especially sharing it to my vast audience of nearly 30,000 followers. I can't believe it. I was on 1,000 followers a few years ago, and I've just grown so fast to where I am, and I never stop growing because people love the stuff I do. Is sharing some of these interviews, about blockchain technology, about great guys like Gary coming on board, telling us how real estate is changing, how it's changing the blockchain technology, and making these impactful changes in our society. Because as we know, blockchain is going to be changing the way we communicate and the way this technology is embracing us. So Gary, it's great to have you on this interview. Just without further ado, I would like to say this is not financial advice or investment advice or telling people to buy the token. This is just purely an educational video interview to tell people about what great people like Gary are doing at CurveBlock and educate people about it. So do take this with a pinch of salt that this is purely just an educational video interview. Gary, it's great to have you on board. Let's put that behind us and let's talk about CurveBlock, how they're changing the real estate industry in blockchain. So Gary, great to have you. Let's fire away. I mean, what's new? Why did you start the project, CurveBlock? But tell me a little bit about yourself first.
Yeah, so other than a brief spell in the military, I spent my entire life within the construction sector, whether it be real estate, commercial, industrial, agricultural. Been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt. A few years ago, I started to actually invest in blockchain startups. And within a short space of time, something leapt out of the page that was missing from the whole space. There was over 1,000 startups, yet there wasn't one startup that was actually doing the world's largest and most profitable asset class, real estate developing.
Correct.
Which is my background. And what was also missing was there was nothing there that was a revenue share business. The profits on real estate significantly higher than any traditional vehicle currently available to the public. So simply reverse engineered what was missing from blockchain. There were some great projects out there. We kind of saw the oversaturation of protocols. There was literally a new protocol coming out every week. Ethereum nailed it and they've kept themselves at the top. And they're still building it out, so they'll probably be number one for a long time when it comes to protocol smart contracts.
Right.
But yeah, I just basically spotted what was missing and decided to reverse engineer it and dare to put my head above the parapet.
I mean, it's great the way you're coming across, because we was just talking about how real estate, is one of the largest asset classes in the world, if not the largest. And
ultimately, just real estate developing alone is approximately $217 trillion. So
let's go on to CurveBlock. Let's talk about CurveBlock. That's amazing, and quite an amazing statistic to hear. CurveBlock is obviously disrupting, the real estate industry in the blockchain technology. And I was only talking to you about this, how NatWest have also supported your cause. They are your key accelerator. There's the board there. So Scott is proud to show that to us. And what an exciting interview this is going to be. But let's talk about CurveBlock. We're here today to talk about CurveBlock. What is it you guys are trying to do and disrupt, to tell my audience of what you stand for?
Yeah, so we basically, to put it in a nutshell, we are real estate developers.
Right.
We are using blockchain to track dividend returns. So we're not reinventing the blockchain wheel. Everything that we're doing is literally already created. Smart contracts, voting rights, you name it, it already exists. We're just a use case, but a use case that is going to turn this industry on its head. And it's going to remove that entry barrier for the public to actually get involved for the first ever time. And I'm
Yes.
talking, you know, I'm from a working class family. I was raised in a family where we didn't have two pennies to rub together.
Right.
Why should the public not have the ability or to be allowed to invest in such a space just because they have a low income? Completely unfair. So we're effectively developing houses, revenue share the profits
Right.
with the public, removing the entry barrier, allowing people to say, I ain't putting my money in a bank savings account anymore, making 0.25% a year. I'm actually going to put it into real estate developing, and it doesn't matter whether they've got £1, £100 or £1,000, they can come in.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. You know, the savings and the ICOs, the return of ratio is very unfair.
Yeah, it is disgusting for the average person. You know, whether they work in McDonald's, drive a bus, or even if they're higher up and they're a white collar worker, a lot of people still have that disadvantage of not being allowed in this sector just because they don't have masses of capital. So turn that on its head, and it's just safety in numbers.
Yeah. So CurveBlock is a way to basically invest in real estate using your tokens, you know, exchanging fiat for CurveBlock tokens,
Yeah.
and having a portion of that basically in whatever they're going to invest in. What made you come up with this solution? Why did you want to start this?
Well, obviously it was missing from the industry, and it's what I've done all my life. So that was perfect dovetail for me. But one of the big sticking points with blockchain is it's such a niche little bubble. You know, a few % of people around the world are only aware of it.
Sure.
This model, you can take this to the masses. You don't need to understand blockchain to understand CurveBlock. So what we're effectively doing is, our target market isn't the blockchain community. Our target market is the public.
Right.
You look at the growth that we saw in the last bull run of how crazy it went. Now, that's with a handful of people around the world, you know, a small percentage of humanity actually knowing about it. Take CurveBlock and give it to the public, huge. Yeah, and it's going to get blockchain into the public space where it's still struggling to get adopted.
Yes. So you're giving everyone a chance to basically get into real estate using this technology, where basically blockchain technology is changing the way real estate is now, you know, revolutionizing this society, rather than doing it the old way where you'd have to go through a middleman to obviously then they take a cut, and then, you know, then you have that portion of that investment. So you think this is the way forward in some sense?
I certainly do. You've got to look at the problem that the masses have got with regards to financial freedom and the world's biggest asset class. It's a no-brainer. You know, there's always going to be people homeless. There's always going to be houses required building. And as the human numbers increase over the years, the problem is only going to compound. So the space that we're in is going nowhere. It's not going to disappear. So the token in question, it's a dividend token, so it's a security token because it's wrapped by a tangible asset. That effectively, you buy it, you either stake it into the staking wallet,
right,
or if you don't want to stake for a dividend, trade it on the platform. You know, put your buy and sell orders in.
Exchange.
Yeah. We're centralized exchange, so it has to be full KYC AML.
Correct. Yes.
Random tokens in random wallets.
Yeah, we'll talk about regulation in a bit. Obviously, you have to follow some procedures when it comes to liquidity and how important it is to ensure that, you know, regulations are followed. Tell us about this NatWest acceleration. Then, obviously, the board is behind me, and you know you are supported by NatWest in some sense. What did they see in CurveBlock?
I was reached out by one of the team at the accelerator, asked to come down. Now, I actually thought this would lead to nowhere because we originally tried to open a bank account with Barclays.
Right.
They refused us because of the nature of blockchain. Obviously, the Silk Road has damaged a lot of traction
Yes.
for our space because of what happened with the Silk Road. So to be rejected by Barclays, when I was actually invited down to NatWest, gave them everything that they wanted. They did about 3 months worth of due diligence. I thought because they're a traditional bank, this ain't going to happen. The next thing, it's like, can we come down and interview you? So I came down, did the interview. And then the next thing, you're in.
Right.
So effectively, what is accelerating? Basically, they look to power up the companies that they want to see as the best style.
Yes.
The next best thing for, obviously, the UK. So there's these various elements. We get free office space, which is awesome because that means we're not having cash burn on investors, renting somewhere to be.
That's pretty good.
We have access to free mentors, the legals. Now they have key partnerships with them as well, and all this is free.
Right.
And we're talking big hitters: Deloitte, Equifax, Dell Technology. The list is endless, and all these people, all these companies, are actually partnered with the NatWest Accelerator that we get to use for free.
So it's good for CurveBlock and it's good for the companies that are partnered with NatWest.
Yeah, to have somebody the size and the power of NatWest behind us, that allows a scale up.
That also provides trust and security for the investor that's obviously also putting their hard-earned money into these assets, right? To some extent.
To me, it's the ultimate validation of a startup.
Correct, yes.
Look at the amount of shit coins that we've seen in a few years where they've literally took the investors' money and disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah, it's totally wrong, yeah.
And that obviously has damaged the space, albeit slightly. You know, people are aware they need to do their own research.
Correct.
For us, yeah, for us to be the first security token offering to be collaborating with a traditional bank, yeah, for me, that the unique selling point is it's the ultimate validation for CurveBlock.
That's a great icebreaker to also put that forward and tell people how serious CurveBlock is. So my next question is to understand CurveBlock, for the average person watching this video, we need to be less than 85% of the world is still trying to grasp what blockchain technology is, let alone what Bitcoin is. Break down the features of CurveBlock and what is it that you guys are actually doing?
It's very simple and boring, but very profitable. We build houses and we're a 50-50 revenue share model. Let's say, classic example, we build a housing estate.
Right.
£2 million profit in the housing estate. Build the houses, sell the houses, this £2 million. 1 million goes to CurveBlock so we can continue to scale and do more developments and grow the company. And that other $1 million goes to the community. So whoever's in that staking wallet, the $1 million gets divvied up into the token holders that are in there. As an example, imagine if you've put quite a lot in. Imagine if you had 1% of all the tokens in the staking wallet, you get 1% of that $1 million.
Right, yeah.
And you can either take your profits, go do whatever you want with them, or buy more staking tokens and reinvest. So there is fundamentally, there's a token scarcity model behind how we've built it. Because obviously,
yeah, it's quite interesting that you mentioned that there's a scarcity model. So you basically is giving the investor a portion of that investment, right? They own that real estate, that house, that property.
The profits. So in the UK, it's currently illegal to tokenize real estate.
Yes.
In ownership terms.
Right.
Land registry, it's a big no. Land registry basically say, how can you say 10,000 people and they all own a brick each and it's just a wallet address?
Yeah.
You can tokenize the profit. You can tokenize the dividend. So that's what we're doing. It's the actual profits from the development that's tokenized and tracked on the blockchain.
That's very interesting. So you're basically working in a way where you're using blockchain technology to change the way how the old system is to the way we should embrace this new technology with CurveBlock, right?
Yeah. In a nutshell, yeah.
Okay, so that's very interesting. So my next question is how is this space going to grow? You know, what is your barriers of entry and your competitors? Because, you know, it's all good and well that we understand what CurveBlock does, but how are you going to grow and what is the competition like for you guys?
There are a handful of real estate blockchain companies out there, albeit with different models. Some of them are illegal. You cannot own a part of a building, not in the eyes of the country where you live. I'm led to believe France are looking at it, but at the moment that element is illegal. So yes, there are some companies out there doing similar things. Our biggest competitor is the traditional REIT outside of blockchain, the real estate investment trust that we talked about. So this is the clever bit now. So the CurveBlock team and all our subcontractors behind us, we will personally be building out the UK projects. So here's the clever bit for the scale. What we do is we will allow independent, pre-vetted real estate developers from around the world to showcase on the platform. So effectively, we can scale globally and scale as big or as small as we.
And the properties are going to be different sizes? Will it be houses or what sort of?
The bulk of it will be real estate houses. There will be some mixtures, i.e. the classic commercial and real estate where you see flats above a shop. It all depends on what somebody brings to the table, whether it's from the US, Australia, Hong Kong, wherever that may be. If the numbers stack and the deal stacks for the CurveBlock community, then yeah, they would be onboarded if they pass, obviously, the pre-vetting. The other element to it, to protect the community, we would run that like a traditional bank works with the developer. So we would take what's called first charge. So that means you take legal ownership of the site so they can't run off with it. And then you tranche payment them. So what a tranche payment is, as an example, if they say, there's £2 million profit in this development, but we need £1 million to develop it, you don't just give them £1 million and expect them to do it. You break that down into stage payments. So you'll give them one payment to get the footings in, and then maybe another payment to get it up to eaves height, and then another payment to finish them off, and then maybe the final payment for landscaping. So that way you're safeguarding the investor's money from the CurveBlock platform.
So there's a process to follow, yeah, when it comes to this.
Yeah, but that ultimately, by allowing the independent pre-vetted real estate developers onto CurveBlock, that's the clever bit where we could effectively become one of the world's largest development companies.
And I have to admit, CurveBlock is the first that I've actually come across in real estate development when it comes to, changing the way real estate is used on the blockchain. And I want to tell my audience, CurveBlock are backed by NatWest Accelerator, and they are coming across as fully compliant, fully trustworthy. Because as for me, someone who's interviewing great projects, it's very important that they come across very compliant and very trustworthy, and showing for who they are. And this is not investment advice as such, but it's good to understand some of these what you guys are doing and how you're changing the technology when it comes to blockchain. Let's talk about you're an STO, you're going down that route. We have a lot of issues around ICOs. Like you say, 99% of them are really poor coins and poor projects, and many did fail during this bear market, and it's good to clear up the market in some sense where the good projects survive. STO now is becoming a very big buzzword. How are you guys following regulation? Because as for me, I think regulation is very important to prevent the scam. What are you guys doing? You mentioned something about KYC, you're fully regulated there. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So as you know, it's still an emerging space. Now, the transition has occurred where it's kind of gone from the ICO to the STO. Effectively, projects are now wrapped around tangible assets.
Right.
Now, in the UK, ironically, there is no compliance at the moment. They're talking about compliance in Parliament. The EU are talking about compliance.
Correct.
We've decided to tick the boxes before the compliance starts.
Right.
So what we're doing is when the seed stage closes, we will file for SEC compliance, which is obviously the states. And what that will effectively do is that will get us jumping through the hoops and ticking the boxes.
That's really key. You're following that, yeah. Really important.
I'll bet pound to a penny then when compliance happens in the UK, they will pretty much copy what the SEC do.
Correct.
Which is predominantly KYC, AML, know your customer, money laundering. So that's our game on that avenue. We don't have to do it, but let's just get the SEC compliance in place.
I think you're doing a great thing there.
And the transition when the FCA or whoever rolls it out in the UK, we should be left alone because we've ticked the boxes, and they'll go chasing the projects that are a bit shady and they're not wanting to file for compliance because it is a pain in the backside. You even have to proofread your tweets.
Yes.
SEC compliance. Literally, you cannot say we will give you 31% ROI. You have to say it's predicted 31% ROI based on previous experience. And there's an element of truth behind that because look at the main two projects that guaranteed ROIs last year: BitConnect and USI Tech.
And they didn't fulfill it, did they?
So yeah, it is a pain in the backside, stepping into that world of compliance. But at the end of the day, we're here for longevity. This isn't a 1 or 2 year thing. The entire team, the entire team's vested for 5 years.
And real estate's only going to develop more powerful on the blockchain, right? And
I think what's great as well is there's room for 1,000 CurveBlocks on this planet because the sector's huge. The sector is absolutely huge. Like you saw all the protocols kind of trying to become the next Ethereum. And literally, there's a handful that probably succeed and the rest will die away. But when it comes to real estate, honestly, you can be as many. The
road is endless.
Yeah, you look how many construction companies there are on the planet, and yeah, they do compete, but not in an aggressive manner. So that's the beauty of where we are with it. It doesn't matter how many more CurveBlocks we see in 5 or 10 years. It's just embracing the fact that it's letting the public into it for the first ever time.
It's good you guys, telling my audience that, you're following this regulation, compliance. It's so important. One of the most important things in the blockchain technology is to follow the rules and regulations. And that's something I kind of stand for when I do these interviews, is following those procedures very, very importantly. What is your market going to be like in the next 5 years? What does the roadmap look like for CurveBlock? As this is an educational video interview telling people about what your project does, what is your roadmap going to look like for now than say in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so when I've mentioned previously, a key element to succeeding is being liquid as a company, i.e. cash in the bank, because when a recession comes or a financial crisis comes...
Which is due soon, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, Brexit. If you have liquidity, if you have cash in the bank, that's where the biggest gains are made, because the banks stop lending the traditional builders that use the banks, and the people that make the real profits are those that don't rely on the banks. So if you look in our white paper, there's some profit and loss charts, and you can see that what we're doing, we're compounding our liquidity year upon year. So we increase that pot constantly. What that will allow us to effectively do is 1, scale, but 2, take advantage of any financial crisis. whether it's Brexit, whether it's somewhere else around the world. Statistically, more wealth is made in real estate during recessions than actually is in boom years. But you have to be liquid. You have to be liquid to do it, and that is our model. And the good thing is, when you're liquid,
which is money physically coming in, right? It's very important for the project to survive on liquidity, right?
Yeah, not reliant on any other funding, so you can.
And you're not on any other exchange either. You've got your own exchange, right? You don't believe in other exchanges, or do you believe in spreading out?
One of the problems was most exchanges are not compliant for security tokens. And then there was another element of how much they charge. I love some of these exchanges, but when you hear what they're charging,
ridiculous.
It's just, they could be literally taking 10% of their investors' money just to list on one exchange.
I heard it's 5-6 figures, but I don't want to give a number, but I heard it's quite expensive.
I've heard some exchanges have charged over 10 million.
Okay, right.
Which is just ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. And some of these exchanges, yes, they have liquidity, but they're only a year or 2 year old. And so
CurveBlock is going to do it themselves, right? You're going to build your own exchange.
Yeah, so we'll have our own centralized exchange, KYC AML. So if you want to be part of it, that's fine. But just like you do when you invest in a company, you've got to give your ID, proof of address, and once that's validated, you're in. There's several elements to it. We're not wasting investors' money listing on all these exchanges, which will go into the millions, which actually investors' money goes into developing real estate and making more money. And then there's the secondary aspect, which is the actual bad side of blockchain, which is the hacks that these exchanges occur.
Correct.
If we only have our token on our exchange, and let's say we get hacked, worst case scenario, we get hacked, they cannot run off and sell them on Binance, IDAX, wherever, because they will only have value on our exchange. So
very important to the investor, yeah.
Yeah. So they can come in and steal a load of coins. They can't do anything with them because nobody else sells them. So that's another element to why, we thought, look, have our own exchange. Let's not waste investors' money and look at the security element that brings
to it. Yeah. So really, really interesting how CurveBlock is, revolutionizing this technology. And I hope my audience have taken and grasped a lot about what is going on with these guys, how they're using real estate as a way to use blockchain technology. My final question, and I just want to sort of get an understanding of it, is you see yourself, being fully compliant, and I think that's really important. Where do you see yourself now heading in the next 5 years? Obviously, we've talked about exchanges. Is this going to be a longevity sort of procedure where you're in it for the long run, not in the short run? And can you provide that assurance to people who look at CurveBlock that this is the case?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the vesting is key, just to actually show the community that we are in it for the long run. Yeah, I'm doing it for the legacy of my children. I've done this all my life. I love blockchain. It's what I don't even class this as a job. I enjoy doing it so much. And yeah, I just want it to scale and continue. And the biggest part for me is CurveBlock Helps, which 5% of every development's profits go to a charity to assist low-income families, low housing income families. So what we'll effectively do is we'll get all these different actions that need voting on, and it'll be the staked token holders that will actually use the blockchain to vote and say, we want you to go do that project, or we want you to go do this project. And yeah, so the scale and longevity of that, we're hoping to make a TV show out of it, just to help with the adoption of blockchain. Right. But the charitable element of it, That's going to be huge. We effectively could become one of the world's largest real estate developers, albeit collectively with other independents, and we could become one of the world's largest
charitable
blockchain to charity via blockchain and real estate. So, yeah,
exciting times. Exciting times. And what I love about you, Scott, is you've got this vision, and you seem the sort of guy you're looking 5-10 years down the line rather than a few weeks and a few months.
My ultimate. Some people laugh at me on this. My ultimate goal is to probably get an MBE or a knighthood for services to charity.
Right.
The public. Yeah, it's down the road. It's
down the road.
But hey, it's going to be one hell of a journey trying.
All right, guys. So I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing Scott, learning all about, CurveBlock and how I hope my audience have enjoyed, watching this. Scott is a down-to-earth guy.
Gary.
Gary, we got the name Gary. God, but it's great to get Gary to share this with us, to share what CurveBlock are doing. They are backed by NatWest. They are accelerated. They are working with some very big players. And, hopefully in the follow-up, we can learn more about what the process is and the in-depth solutions CurveBlock are taking, because it's quite important to educate people about that and the serious project. Just want to say, this is not financial advice. This is just purely an educational video interview. Gary shared some of his story, and I like to say this is not selling the token. It's just a way to educate people and tell you what these great projects are doing. So take this as a way to learn more about what these great projects are doing and what they're standing for. So take that as your own advice. All right, guys. So Gary, great to have you and learn all about CurveBlock. It's been very, very interesting to hear, and looking forward to speaking to you in a few weeks' time. Thanks very much, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.